Let's call our meeting to order, Public Service Committee. Please stand. Our Pledge of Allegiance.
I pledge allegiance
To the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Item number 3, the adoption of the agenda.
Toronto adopts the agenda.
Support Van Sickle.
Please vote.
Motion passes 12-0.
Item number 4, public participation. Is there anyone here from the public that wishes to speak on any item on the agenda? Anyone from the public? From the public, we'll close public participation. Let's go to item number 5, presentations. We have Jennifer Hill. Jennifer, welcome.
That was really using staff time to put down the ropes. It's a little bit more than this.
Good afternoon.
Good afternoon. Hi.
Thanks so much for having me. My name is Jennifer Hill. I'm the Executive Director of the Clinton River Watershed Council, and I came here today to give you an update on the work that the Clinton River Watershed Council has been doing in Macomb County over the past year. So I've been with the Watershed Council actually since December, so I've been here a little bit less than a year, but we've accomplished a lot in Macomb County in the last several months, and I wanted to talk to you a little bit about that. So first, for folks that might not be aware, the mission of the Clinton River Watershed Council is to protect, enhance, and celebrate the Clinton River, its watershed, and Lake St. Clair. And of course, a watershed, as you see here in this picture, is an area of land where water is flowing in the same direction, right? So you have this red line that shows the land that's further up, and when water hits that, it's flowing down into a central area. In this watershed, it's the Clinton River and it's Lake St. Clair. And you'll see the little dot there on the map of Michigan. That's where we are, of course. And this is a really unique watershed, as you all well know. It's the most densely populated watershed in Michigan, home to 1.5 million people, spans 5 counties, 63 communities. The river itself is 81.5 miles long. And the Clinton River Watershed Council serves not only the Clinton River watershed, but also Lake St. Clair communities. So you'll see that our service area actually extends around Anchor Bay as well. And we are supported by many different folks here, including, of course, yourselves, communities and counties like Macomb County. We're so thankful for your support. And individual members, we also have memberships for homeowner associations and do a lot of partnerships with businesses. And of course, we get funding from private and state and federal grants to support the organization. All of those different streams of revenue are what enable the Watershed Council to deliver the wealth of programming that I'm going to be talking to you about today. And so just a very short historical piece here is that, historically, the Watershed Council was created in 1972. It was an answer to the lack of regulation that was happening around protecting our water resources. And that meant that because of that lack of regulation, of course, there were a ton of contaminants going into the river, trash, and even discharges from combined sewers that were entering the watershed. Additionally, obviously this area has been rapidly developed over the last 100 years or so. And so when that was happening, there was a loss of our natural wetlands and other areas that allow water to seep into the ground. So you'll see in this next slide here, this is a map of the impervious surfaces in the Clinton River watershed. So you see all that, that yellow. Those are all impervious surfaces. So things like roads, parking lots, driveways, housing developments, things that don't allow water to go back into the soil and be absorbed either by plants or go back into the groundwater. So our biggest challenge here in the Clinton River watershed is managing stormwater. And that means that we have continued water quality problems that we have to be thinking about. When we think about stormwater, that's all the water that's running off our roads, running off our parking lots, picking up things like salt, oil, other contaminants, and those are hitting the storm drain and going into the river and into Lake St. Clair. So a lot of what we do at the Clinton River Watershed Council is work with communities, work with residents, work with partners to really figure out how do we stop that water from hitting the storm drain? How do we allow it to first go back through the soil and the ecosystems we have here so it can filter out some of those contaminants. So we have 4 pillars that guide the work at the Clinton River Watershed Council. They're protect, enhance, celebrate, and engage. And I want to go through them briefly and tell you about the work we've been doing in Macomb County over the last year. The first one is protect, and this includes all of our education programming, both our programming that we do with schools, K through 12 education, as well as community education and stewardship activities. So one of our flagship programs for our educational work with children is the Stream Leaders program. So this is K through 12 water quality monitoring that we do with kids in spring and in the fall. We do it through schools, and they get to come out to streams and actually do the biological, chemical, and physical monitoring to understand how the stream is doing. And it's a really cool program. We have some schools that actually come to our office and do the monitoring, and it's really fun to see the kids getting in the waders and using the dip nets, and they just love it. So in 2023, we do this program in May and we do it in October. So we have 10 sites, 10 schools that we're interacting with in Macomb County in 2023. Those either have been done in May or they're coming up in October. And that's going to engage over 700 students. We also have a proposal into Michigan Sea Grant right now that would increase our ability to deliver more stream leader opportunities in 2024, particularly in Warren. And so we've been working with teachers in that school district to be able to work on this program, but we have hopes for more grant money that would allow us to increase participation in Warren in particular. So I haven't heard about that grant yet. I was hoping I'd hear before I came here, but more to come on that soon. We also do education through water festivals, and so particularly for Macomb County, that includes the Lake St. Clair Water Festival. That happens each May, where we're working with our partners to engage 4th and 5th graders in Great Lakes education. And there were 38 classes that took part in this past May in the Lake St. Clair Water Festival, and that was over 1,100 students that came to that water festival. And in addition to specific events like the water festivals, we also provide speakers, classroom speakers. Our staff go out and talk with students about water quality, aquatic ecology, green stormwater infrastructure. And here in Macomb County, we support things like, in particular, the Macomb Green Schools program through that work. So stewardship is another big part of the work that we do. And when we say stewardship, one of the things that we mean is one of our flagship programs called our Weekly Clean program. So this takes place every Wednesday beginning in April, and it runs all the way through November. It's from 10 to noon, and we go to a different park or green space within the watershed each week. And this year we've visited 13 parks in Macomb County so far. We have plans to visit 3 more. So that last year we visited 14 overall in Macomb. So we're planning to increase that by a few parks. And at this time last year, we had pulled 1,100 pounds of trash overall out of the watershed. This year we are almost to 4,000 pounds. So have tripled the amount of trash that we've pulled this year, and that's because we've increased our staffing, and we have a new staffer, Lydia Nichols, and they've really targeted many different parks throughout the watershed, and so that's a really great program that we're excited to continue to provide in Macomb County. In addition to our weekly cleanup, we also have the Clinton cleanup, which happens each September in the watershed. That's a watershed-wide cleanup where we work with communities, we work with private groups to host cleanups on the same day or the same weekend throughout the watershed. So that just happened a few weeks ago. We had 4 sites that were cleaned up in Macomb County and 63 participants This is a program that we're going to work to really expand in the coming years and work to partner more with communities to be able to provide more public cleanups for residents to come out and help give back and clean up the watershed. And finally, in stewardship, we have business partnerships. So I mentioned that this is one of the audiences that we work with. We offer private cleanups. We do things like supporting rain garden installations, but I wanted to highlight one event that we did in the end of August. We worked with the GM Design Center, and through their GM Cares program, we brought out 115 volunteers to Beaver Creek Park and James C. Nelson Park in Sterling Heights, and they picked up more than 2,300 pounds of trash. So they were very competitive. They were there for about an hour and a half, and that was just a great haul of trash. So we're excited that they're a partner of ours and working to continue to build those partnerships with many businesses that are in the watershed. So Enhance is our second pillar, and this is our water quality monitoring, our ecological assessments, and our restoration work. Our flagship program here is our Adopt a Stream program. We do this in May and October, and it's a citizen science water quality monitoring program. It provides critical water quality data to the state of Michigan about the health of the Clinton River. And in May of 2023, we had 13 sites in Macomb County that were monitored and engaged 56 volunteers. We have secured a grant through Michigan EGLE to update our Adopt a Stream program and increase our volunteer engagement and retention and our data sharing so that our data is going to be more publicly available to folks living in the watershed. And we have an upcoming Adopt a Stream monitoring event, which will take place on October 7th. So if you're interested in coming and looking at some macroinvertebrates, we'd love for you to join us. No prior knowledge is needed, and we have a link on our website to register for that. We have another really cool grant through the Michigan DNR that's looking at red swamp crayfish. So red swamp crayfish are an invasive species. They come from Louisiana. So if you think about a crayfish boil down in the south, that's what folks are eating, is a red swamp crayfish. They are invasive here in Michigan and unfortunately have been found in the Clinton River watershed. We have a partnership with Friends of the Rouge, which is a sister watershed just south of us, and we're both doing crayfish surveys in our respective watersheds, both of native crayfish and also, of course, looking for red swamp crayfish. We have not found any crayfish, any red swamp crayfish to date on our surveys, which is great. We will be doing surveys again next year, and we'll actually be focusing more heavily in Macomb County next year. We did survey several sites in Macomb County this year. There are 2 populations of red swamp crayfish that have been identified in the watershed to date, and we're working closely with Lake St. Clair SISMA, which is the Invasive Species Network, and the DNR to really monitor those populations. So this is also a great opportunity for education, and we're doing that through some of our social media channels and communications for people to be able to understand what red swamp crayfish are and what to do when they see them. And finally, in our Enhanced pillar, we are the administrator of the Public Advisory Council for the Clinton River Area of Concern. The area of concern here in the Clinton River actually spans the whole watershed, so it's unique in that way from Great Lakes areas of concern. And we do a lot of different pieces of this work, but what we're doing right now is really, we're in charge of continuing to monitor annually the habitat restoration projects and different restoration projects that were done several years ago. There were 11 projects that were completed and were funded by the EPA. And for example, we've monitored 9 of those sites so far in Macomb County. We'll be finishing that monitoring this year. So we do the annual monitoring to understand how those projects are helping to move us toward getting rid of these beneficial use impairments that we have in the Clinton River area of concern. In 2024, we're going to be focusing on the eutrophication beneficial use impairment. Eutrophication has to do with excess nutrients in our waterways, and the CRWC is charged with figuring out how we actually monitor for that. And so our new watershed ecologist is working on a plan for that, along with the state and partners, including folks from Macomb County who attend the Public Advisory Committee meetings. And along with that, we're listening to the Public Advisory Council. There's a shared goal of increasing and diversifying voices within the Public Advisory Council and increasing our communications to residents for folks to understand the continued importance of investing in the area of concern. So I was talking to Commissioner Brown before the meeting, and we are still, there are 8 beneficial use impairments in the Clinton River watershed AOC, and 7 still remain. And those, of course, need to follow sound science to be taken off the list so that eventually the Clinton River area of concern can be delisted. So we're working with the state and with EPA, reestablishing those connections. We've had some staff turnover to move forward on that. And then celebrate. So one of our programs that we do through this pillar is Water Towns, which really helps. It's focused on communities connecting back to their water resources and helping them to do that in different ways, including doing installations for green infrastructure solutions to keep that stormwater from hitting the storm drain and instead going through green infrastructure installations first. So we've been working with the City of Centerline since 2019 to help them design and install a green infrastructure solution at their parking lot. And there were 4 small rain gardens that were installed at this lot in May, and this is pictures from that installation. And the plants are beginning to establish themselves now. This installation alone, so it's sort of hard to see here, but you see there's 2 cells on this end, and then the parking lot has 4 in total, so 2 on each end. Those little rain gardens can capture up to 34,000 gallons of stormwater in one rain event. So they have native plants, and then underneath the native plants is actually a small catch basin that allows for stormwater to be caught there and then gradually infiltrate back into the ground during large rain events. So even these small installations can be really impactful, and we're excited to be working with communities like Centerline to do installations like this. We're actually going to be hosting a tour of this site and one other site in Centerline on Tuesday, September 26th at 2 p.m. In partnership with the city. So if anyone's interested in coming, we'd love to see you there. And finally, on water towns, Warren has joined as a water town as well in 2023. So the city council voted in June to be a water town, and we're working in partnership with the city to provide services through our contractor, Drummond Carpenter, to design and engineer green infrastructure solutions for the skate park project at Eckstein Park. And so, you know, that park is very close to the Red Run. So, of course, finding solutions to capture stormwater there before it floods, goes into the Red Run is a top priority. And so we're just starting to work with the city of Warren on that, and we'll have more to come soon, but excited about that partnership. We're also the manager of the Clinton River Water Trail. In 2019, the Clinton River was designated a state water trail. We serve as the manager there. We're working to increase things like safety resources, address barrier to access, like large woody debris. So we're actually working with Macomb County Public Works on that within Macomb County. And then also increasing information sharing through resources like an app that actually was established with the Clinton River Watershed Council and other partnerships that we have. We have some funding coming to us from the state of Michigan for the water trail specifically in this next budget, we're told. And we really want to use that to work with communities to increase the safety signage along the water trail. So you see on the, on my right, this graphic here are signs that we just produced this year. Those were distributed to communities, to places where folks launch and actually access the water trail. And it's a great safety signage. It links to our app. It also has all sorts of information for folks who want to go and paddle on the river. So those are up along the water trail, but we know that there are additional needs like mile markers. A lot of them have don't exist anymore, and they allow folks to actually let emergency workers know exactly where they are on the river if they have a problem out in the water. So we're going to really focus on getting all the safety signage back up to snuff so that people are able to enjoy the resource safely. A few more here just to mention that we did a new pilot program this year called Nourish by Nature. It was focused on getting folks outside and connected with outdoor experience that they may have not had an opportunity to connect with before because of cost concerns, because of other barriers like transportation or lack of equipment. And so this first slide is actually a picture of folks who went on a birding event in East Point. So we partnered with the East Point Library, the City of East Point, the Detroit Zoo, and Macomb Audubon, and we took 25 folks out in East Point and went birding in May. We saw Baltimore Orioles, we saw raptors. People had a wonderful time, and it was a great first event for us because it really proved what we thought was the case, which is that sometimes people need a little bit of help in connecting with a new outdoor activity. And so we were able to do that at that event, which was wonderful. We're planning to do this series again next year. We were also able to do it on the Salt River in June. We had a kayaking event where we partnered with Simple Adventures, which is a local kayak service. And we took folks up the Salt River, and they got to hear about some invasive species along the river, but also got to visit a local business that's right along the river, get some custard, and also hear about the connection between business and clean natural resources. So we're really excited about this series. We're excited to do more work in Macomb County through it next year. And finally, I'll say we hosted Crafts on the Clinton, which is an annual celebration of the Clinton River and the Watershed, actually on Friday. For years, it's been at Yates Cider Mill in Rochester Hills. This year, it was actually at Dodge Park under the Farmers Pavilion. It was the largest event we've ever had. We had 250 people there, 10 beer and wine vendors, 6 art and food vendors. And it was a wonderful venue. People were so excited to be there. It's such a beautiful park, and we have a great partnership with the City of Sterling Heights. So we were really excited to be in Macomb County for that event on Friday. And I don't have an updated picture because my staff was off today, but next year I'll have that, or I'll send you some because it was really wonderful. And the last thing here is engage. So we engage folks through all different ways. We have a lot of different services that we provide that I just went through, but the last thing I wanted to highlight really briefly is that we're working on growing our residential green infrastructure services. So you'll see in this diagram all the different ways that water can flow off of someone's property and go into the storm drain. And in the next year, we're really interested in helping residents to have the resources they need to put green infrastructure solutions on their property. And that's as simple as installing a rain barrel, maybe planting a tree, doing a small native planting, or maybe something larger like a rain garden. And so we're working on developing our services at the Watershed Council to be able to help residents with that. And we're doing that not only in our watershed, but we're also working in partnership with the Huron River Watershed Council, Friends of the Rouge, and Friends of the Detroit River to learn from one another, because there are very similar challenges in all these watersheds that abut each other, and really figure out how we can best provide services to residents. So I think that's a really exciting thing that's happening in Southeast Michigan, and I wanted to be sure to mention it to you. And for the Clinton River Watershed Council itself, we've been approved to have a AmeriCorps member serve with us in 2024. So that's a service program. And they're going to be helping us to really figure out how we continue to expand green infrastructure services to residents in the Clinton River watershed. So we're looking forward to that. So I just wanted to end by saying thank you so much for the continued support of Macomb County, of the Watershed Council. We'd not be able to provide the wealth of programming and services that we do without support from members like you. And we look forward to continuing to expand our services and meet the needs that your residents have here in Macomb County. And thanks so much for taking the time, and I'm happy to answer any questions you may have.
Any commissioners?
The detail button.
Romano, Commissioner.
Thank you, Commissioner. Hi, Ms. Hill.
Hi.
Yeah, I got quite a few questions for you.
Okay.
So where does the Clinton River watershed start? I know it empties into Lake St. Clair, but where does it start? Upstream?
Yep, it starts,
You can just vocalize it for
oh,
me.
sure. Yeah, so it starts up in northern Oakland County, in the sort of Waterford and northern areas around there.
And then it drains down and eventually ends up into the Clinton River.
It drains down and eventually ends up in Lake St., well,
I'm
the
sorry, Lake
river
St. Clair. I'm
drains
sorry,
into Lake St. Clair.
So,
That's right.
you know, we have, I don't know if you're familiar with Candace Miller, our drain commissioner.
Yes.
But she's a great steward for Lake St. Clair and the Clinton River. I mean, she does, it's amazing what this lady has done in the short spans of time that she's been around. And we not only want to congratulate her, but congratulate you for keeping our river clean. The problem I'm having, unfortunately, and I say a problem, is the polluters. I have a gentleman, I'll call him the steward of Dodge Park, which is the Clinton River. I'm probably 5 blocks from Dodge Park where the Clinton River crosses, and I'm probably 2 blocks away from the Red Run Drain. So I'm very, very familiar with the area. From time to time, and it's funny that you just happened to bring this up today, I have to show one of my commissioners some pictures that he has taken as recent as today of people polluting the Clinton River, and it's coming from upstream. Oil discharges, great amounts of foam. Anyway, and he gives the water coordinates. A pretty smart guy. He's giving the coordinates where it's coming from, but he doesn't know who to call. He contacts me. I forward this to Commissioner Miller. It's really, I don't think it's her bailiwick. I think it would be yours to find out, but he doesn't know who to contact. Is there a number that he can call, that he can talk to somebody without going through a dialogue of where this is at or who he's talking to? You understand what my question is?
Yeah.
He'd like to be able to talk to somebody and say, hey, listen, and he rides it daily, at least twice a day. He's in Dodge Park riding the Clinton River. He'll walk or ride it. And he finds these things by looking into the river itself, by seeing this. And he knows it's coming from upstream, and sometimes he follows it to the end. But maybe you could find out what it is that's in the river that's polluting it, because not only is there a lot of wildlife, as you would know, in Dodge Park, and Sterling Heights tries to keep Dodge Park as pristine as we can, but honestly, I've had kids in that water that I've told them to get out of that water because there's so much garbage in it that I'd be afraid they'd catch some type of disease. And it's nice that we do canoeing and kayaking. And at one time, it was one of the greatest places to go fishing at. Not anymore. But we're cleaning it up bit by bit. And I think if we could maybe get a hold of some of these polluters and who's doing it, and it seems like it's constant, the same people over and over, because it's the same type of pollution, and maybe we can contact them or get a hold of them, and there's some place that he can get a hold of you to get a hold, or you or whoever you would designate, that he can
Yes,
contact.
so-
I would certainly appreciate it. When
Yes.
you're through here, I'll meet you out in the hall for a minute, because I don't
Okay.
want to say, there's other commissioners that like to speak to you, all right?
Yes, so we can do that, and then we can also, connect with Michigan EGLE, whose purview is to work with polluters. But yes, we can certainly,
I'll get you in the hallway when you're through. There's other commissioners that have questions. Thank you, Commissioner.
Thank you, Commissioner Romano. Commissioner Nard?
Hi.
Hi.
I really thank you for your presentation. It was very informative. I live in South Warren, where every time it rains, I probably catch all the rainwater in my basement. So, and I've been talking with the residents there, and they're interested in rain gardens and different things to absorb some of that water. So I was looking at that chart and I saw those little lines look like veins, and I noticed that they cut across, they go to the northern part of Warren, but when it, after it passes center line, it's blank. I'm wondering, should I be concerned about that no water is flowing anywhere? And then that's why I get so much water in my basement, because I'm maybe 4 blocks away from 8 Mile. And so I'm just concerned about that, and I want to get your number. I know he's going to talk to you in the hallway, but I do want to get that number because I want to talk to you about rain gardens, and I need to know the time on September 26th when you're going to have that tour, so I could be there.
okay, sure. It's at 2:00.
Okay,
But
at
yes,
2,
I can,
okay.
I'll give you my card. So yes, that's a great question about the delineation along 8 Mile. And we've actually been talking to the state about that, because historically, the Clinton River Watershed Council, of course, the Clinton River Watershed didn't just end at a street. It doesn't make sense that it would
Right,
just
right.
end in a straight line. What's happened with how sewer systems have been done is that now south of 8 Mile, that water, where it historically flowed into the Clinton River, now it flows the opposite direction because of how the sewer systems have been done. But we are talking about, my staff and I, about how we can serve that part of the watershed that historically is part of the Clinton River watershed. And on maps right now is not. So that's why you see that delineation. So it is on our radar. Is it the reason for basement floodings? I don't know the answer to that, but certainly would love to talk to you more about green infrastructure solutions and how we could be helpful to residents in Warren in, exploring some solutions that could be helpful in at least helping with those problems. Basement flooding is a huge issue in this area.
Okay, yes, thank you, I appreciate that.
course.
Thank you.
Thank you, Commissioner Menard. Commissioner Van Sickle?
Thank you. I'm going to throw a caveat on Commissioner Romano's request. Maybe you could send that contact information to our staff and they could distribute it to all the commissioners.
Oh,
Because I know I have people who would like to follow up with that also. Getting back to Centerline, the parking lot that you showed in the picture, you said
Yes.
there's 4 rain gardens at the 4 corners or
Yes.
something. Do they collect all the water from that parking lot?
They do.
And from just that little parking lot, you quoted, was it 30 some?
4,000 gallons. So the parking lot is bigger than what you saw in the picture.
Okay,
It's probably maybe longer than this room. So it's a rectangle, and those 4 rain gardens are on each corner. And what the city did through the grant that they had is they actually repaved it and then re-sloped it so that the water, because they were having a big flooding problem at the parking lot, so that the water actually is directed to those gardens. And then there are also retention basins under each of those gardens so that when there is a huge rain event, obviously the plants can't catch all of that, but it allows for that water to gradually go back into the ground after the event has happened.
so, yeah, we used to call them dry wells or something like that. Is that,
It's similar,
they're like just sort of empty basins, okay?
right?
Red Run, CSOs. I understand that Oakland County dumps a lot of CSOs into Red Run. And while they may be within state limits, they appear to be above the limit which sort of pollutes our Lake St. Clair. Has your council done anything with looking at any of that and maybe making suggestions to the state legislature about adjusting the CSO limits that can be dumped?
Yeah, good question. So like I said, I'm pretty new, so I know that this is an issue that exists. And to your specific question of have we made any suggestions to the state legislature, no. My understanding is that everything that's discharged is treated, but I know that it's an issue, and so it's something that I'm learning more and more about, and I don't, so no is the answer to the state legislature for right now, but it's something that I'm going to continue to look into and learn more about now that I'm on board and getting more of a lay of the land.
You may want to look into the Oakland County Red Run CSOs because they're something else. And just sort of an off-the-wall question. You said the Clinton River is, was it 81 or 83 miles?
81.
81 miles long. How long does it take a drop of water dropped in at the headwaters to get down to the lake? Just, do you happen to know? It's just
I
curious.
do not know the answer to that, but I'm going to find out now that you've asked me, so I'll get back to you. I
Just
don't
sort of
know the answer.
curious.
Yeah, it's a
Thank
good
you.
question.
Thank you, Chair.
Thank you, Commissioner. Commissioner Brown?
Thank you. I appreciate the information. You heard from your presentation how many questions have come up from the board about interest in what you're doing, because Macomb County, we care about the water maybe more than most in the Tri-County region because of Lake St. Clair and all the effects that everyone has upstream has on our great lake right over here beside us. But I also wanted to inform the board, this Watershed Council is important to the taxpayers. They provide many help for us that the county health department would have to do ourselves. The monitoring that they do, to Commissioner Romano's question, they were involved in the early 90s when Lake St. Clair was born to be they're the first people on the ground helping identify where people were hooking up pollution and things are feeding into the lake from all across the county. And the organization has grown into such an outstanding tool for all of us that, and it doesn't cost the taxpayers anything. I mean, they receive federal grants and state grants and sometimes county money that we contribute a little bit, you know, for cleanup efforts, the cleanup of the Clinton River you mentioned. It's blossomed so much. And I want to make sure that our communication staff will get hold of you, Arola, and get all of our contact information. You can put us all on your email list.
Oh, great.
So you could keep us informed of the activities you're doing, because we're a great resources to you and your organization, because we have contacts locally in the community where other people could perhaps create other water towns, depending whatever that criteria that you require, to maybe help build that out, or help with the cleanup of the parks, 13 county parks. I didn't know you did so many. I always focus on the Clinton River cleanup, and that's the big one in June, but I didn't realize you're doing so many others. I'm sure that these commissioners would be interested in, and our board will certainly advocate and advertise what you're doing in the community on all your programs through our social media network. But all of our commissioners have networks of themselves in the local communities where you want to get out to. And guess what they can do? They can also help create volunteers for your organization to feed the organization, because without volunteers, none of this work gets done really. And you've got some dedicated paid staff there, and they're great, but you need volunteers to really make it work. And we could be a great force multiplier, you know, if we communicate with each other a little bit more. We have a brand new board. Most of our members are relatively new. So many of them, for the first time, didn't even hear this presentation, didn't know this was going on. So I might encourage you to work with us, and we're going to work with you to try to promote what's good about the Clinton River watershed, and because it benefits everyone in the county. And there's much more we could say, but we don't have time to say it. So I'll
Well,
cut
I'd
it short
appreciate
now.
that.
But,
That would be great. And if I can ever be helpful to any of you, I'll make sure Kyle has my information and I'll be here for the meeting, but please let me know.
very good. We said, Rolla, we'll get a hold of you, and we'll be in touch. Thank you so much.
Thank
Thank you,
you.
Mr. Chairman.
Thank you, Commissioner Brown. Be it no other speakers, Jennifer, thank you again for coming out and giving us a real detailed report for all the commissioners. Thank you. No other speakers, please vote.
Motion passes 13-0.
Item number 6, department recommendations. I'd like to move A, B, C, D, E, F, and G together.
So moved by Nard.
Mr. Santo? You have the floor, and no questions, please. No.
Good afternoon, Commissioners. Looking at 6A, this is a contract, Michigan Department of Transportation contract for our Traffic Operations Center, our TOC Center, which is in our complex facility. Total cost is $3,950,000. County cost, our cost share would be $790,000. This runs basically an annual program for the operations of our Comtech Center. So seeking approval of that contract with MDOT. Any questions? Okay, item B is a cost share agreement with Chesterfield Township for a section of road, 23-mile road reconstruction from the Canadian National Railroad crossing to Gratiot, which is to the east. Total cost is $5,120,000. County cost to Department of Roads is $921,283. This is about a 60-40 split with 60% federal funds, 40% match, and that match is split with us in Chesterfield Township at a 50-50 rate. So seeking approval of that cost share agreement, once again, with Chesterfield Township.
Mr. Chair, I have a question on that item, if I may.
Yes, Commissioner?
Thank you. Thanks, Brian. 2 quick questions. So I'm assuming with the federal dollars being involved that the entire crossing is going to be redone?
That is
that
independent
stretch?
of the crossing. So annually, we submit to MDOT and to the rail companies. There's a MDOT rail program. So we typically submit 2 crossings a year. We don't always get 2 crossings a year, but I know we were submitting or are going to be submitting 23-mile road as a request for next year's crossing rehabilitation repair. So that is not part of that. That's totally separate from our roadways. That's their jurisdictional right away.
Please get that included. Do everything you can to get that included so it's done all at the same time, obviously.
That's what
And
we're shooting for. But once again, that's a submittal that we do to MDOT for selection. We've been pretty successful with that program, usually getting a couple within the community, Macomb County. I think this year we got one, but typically we're lucky enough to get two. But that is on the list for next year's program also.
And this is the same section of road that the township actually paid for a few years ago just to do basically a patch job that we knew was only gonna last a couple years. But is this a complete rebuild? Is this a mill and fill? What do you guys?
Yeah, so we did previously a partnership with Chesterfield Township, was a pretty much a small Band-Aid.
Yeah.
We milled, I think it was a couple inches off the surface, did minor repairs, and then resurfaced it with a new layer of asphalt to get us by for a couple years. So yes, this construction project is a full reconstruct.
Great.
Down to the grade and then built back up.
Great. Thank you, Brian. Thank you, Mr. Chair.
You're welcome, Commissioner.
Mr. Brown?
Brian, the work that's being done, that's a lot of money. I mean, are they putting a bridge over the road to take the train over the top of the road?
No, this is just basically from the railroad tracks to Gratiot. Removal of the existing pavement, any storm sewer repairs, replacements, and basically rebuilding the roadway.
Storm sewer, that's right. That's what's driving the cost up.
Yeah.
All right, never mind. Thank you, Mr. Chairman.
You're welcome, Commissioner. Okay, on to item C, which would be contract modification. This is for a current project that we had coming to completion with Proline Asphalt Paving Corp. It was a mill and fill project on Schoenherr Road. Total cost of this contract modification is $440,337.83. That cost is split with the community. That is a additional cost. So when we do mill and fill projects and we try and estimate the amount of repair work that we have to do, when a roadway is overlaid with asphalt, which this roadway was, it's a guessing game on what you're left with underneath. I can compare it to a box of chocolate. Sometimes you don't know what you get until you bite into it. When you mill off that asphalt and get down to the concrete surface, sometimes the areas that you thought you're gonna have concrete patches are great, and you don't have to do any patches once you get through that first lift of asphalt that's capped over the top of the concrete. Other locations, you mill down to the top, and it's crumbling, it's deteriorated. Even though the surface of the asphalt wasn't really deteriorated, that's what you're left with, and we have to fix that. So these are all inspected quantities by our inspection staff that's out there daily. They were required and needed to make the patches before we overlaid it again. We didn't want to leave deteriorated, crumbling concrete underneath a new asphalt roadway that we're going to be back to in a year or two fixing those spots. So this was an overrun. Our staff, my staff usually does pretty well with estimating, but sometimes when you get down to the existing concrete surface, it's more deteriorated than what is anticipated. So seeking approval of this contract modification moving forward.
Questions? D?
Item D, this is a cost share agreement with Macomb Township, a section of roadway, Garfield Road, between 23 and 25 mile. This is a new section of roadway that we partnered with Macomb Township for. The total cost is $9,767,809. Our split would be 40% because it's considered a local road. So that would be $3,907,123, or I'm sorry, $3,907,123. So seeking approval of this cost share agreement with Macomb Township.
Speakers?
Item E, this is a contract with Paymar Enterprises, once again for the previous cost share agreement in road construction for Garfield. This is actual contract with Paymar Enterprises for the Garfield Road construction from 23 to 25 mile. The total construction cost is $8,277,803.74. Once again, at a 60-40 split, that would be a cost to McDowell of $3,311,121.50. So seeking approval of that contract with Paymar.
Chair, really quick. Brian,
Yes.
is the total amount for this contract 18 million? The total between the both of those? I'm just curious because you've got a cost share agreement and a contract with the vendor.
Yeah, so the cost share with the township is more because that includes design, survey, inspection costs. So that includes PE, preliminary engineering, and construction engineering costs. So that's why that's the $9,000,007. And then the actual construction contract cost with Paymar is $8,277,000. So that's the lower amount. So that's the actual repair work that's being done outside of the P and the C.
Is that applicable with the design for that many miles of road? Typically, that's what the price points are, nearly $10 million.
That stretch of road, that's a 2-mile stretch of brand-new roadway. So yes, that would be amenable to that 2-mile stretch of that brand-new roadway being built, yes.
Okay, thank you.
Not cheap,
No, I know, huh? Trust me, I hear it.
and not getting any cheaper. Item F, seeking a resolution in support of the Michigan Department of Transportation Alternative Program. This is in conjunction with a grant being submitted for the Jefferson Pathways in Chesterfield Township. This is a joint effort between ourselves and Chesterfield to move forward with this application. So seeking a resolution in support of that through us as the Act 51 agency in reaching out to the community, obviously with supporting them in their endeavors for the TAP grant. So seeking that resolution for that. Item G would be the offer to purchase and statement of compensation. So we have a road reconstruction widening project anticipated for Romeo Plank from 21.5 to 23 Mile Road in Macomb Township. And as a result of that, we have certain full takes of properties that were necessary to move that project along. This is one of the properties, so there's been negotiations with the homeowners through our Corp council, through our right-of-way department, moving this forward. We did make an offer to them, which they had accepted, but seeking approval of this purchase and statement of compensation. The total amount is $431,651.50. That is a 50-50 split between us and Macomb Township as a cost share of that cost. And as you can see with the breakout, with the appraised value, we have to pay 125% of that, and then any differential in taxes going from one parcel to the next. So that is the amount that we're seeking approval as far as compensation to this property owner along Romeo Plank.
Mr. Chair, can I ask a question?
Commissioner?
Thank you, Brian.
Yes.
How many buildings, are there buildings there? When I looked up, I saw buildings. Are you you're gonna keep some of those buildings, or is it just a large area that you need? How large is that area you need there?
Actually, this is a property that's north of 22 Mile Road on
Right.
the east side of Romeo Plank. So this is an actual residential home that we're looking to purchase. We have probably, I think, five parcels, I think, along that easterly side of Romeo Plank, north of 22. We do have the party store that's on the northwest corner that we're in negotiations, and we're going to have to acquire that party store also in order to install or complete the roundabout that we have proposed for the 22 Mile and Romeo Plank intersection. So, it is an involved process. Like I said, in order to get this to continue as far as the widening up to 23 Mile Road as was planned and anticipated.
So would you say that's 2 or 3 football fields that you need, or, because it takes around the whole area there? I'm just kind of asking, because I see there's
It's a strip of land
Yeah, I
on
see
the east
that.
side from, there's one little storefront that just opened, actually, right at the northeast corner. That's part of the take. I think there's 5 residential homes that go north of there. That's their property frontages are all area that we need in addition to the homes that we need to purchase.
Yeah,
this project.
Yeah, I see. I was just curious. All right, thank you very much, sir. Thank you,
You're
Chair.
welcome, Commissioner.
Question also, that retail store in the corner is gonna be gone eventually?
Yes, correct.
And those 5 houses there right at the light and that new restaurant, or that, I think it's a hamburger joint that just opened up, so they're gonna be out of business as well.
That is correct.
And is the Romeo Plank being straightened out at all there?
That's why we're shifting the road slightly to the east a little bit to flatten out some of those curves as they head to the north. Yes.
And the retail store accepted your offer as well?
We're currently in negotiations, and that's a process that's taking place currently. So there's not an offer on the table right now. This is the only offer that we have as far as a purchase. There's another one that's very, very close, I think, as far as a residential home, but those talks and negotiations and discussions are ongoing.
And you don't help relocate, do you?
Yes, we do. That's part of our process. When we we select areas, or I should say, locations that we have to do full takes. That is part of our process with our department and resources, that we need to find them equitable housing in the area and do that process with them, so.
If I'm not mistaken, 3 or 4 years ago, a couple years ago, maybe 3 years ago, one of the homeowners were holding out, but obviously they gave in.
You know, this project is nothing new. It's been out there as far as being talked about. There's been some concern with some of the residents, you know, the past probably year and a half. But it's a process that we go through. You know, we've had our fair share of full takes in the past, not that they're every year, every other year, but certain projects, as far as the need to acquire certain properties in full, are inevitable. And this is one of the stretches of roadway that we need to do full takes. And there's
If
a
they
process
wouldn't
for
have
that.
agreed, then you would have to have it condemned?
That is correct. We have the condemnation process. We don't usually, you know, like to travel that route. It's long and can be as costly or more costly than trying to negotiate with people reasonably.
Okay, thank you.
You're welcome, Commissioner.
Mr. Chair, quick question. I don't know if we're on the list.
No, neither are on the list, but I'll take Commissioner Van Sickle first.
Thank you, Chair. Good afternoon, Brian.
Good afternoon, Commissioner.
When you say a full take, you mean you're purchasing the whole property as it exists?
That's correct.
Do you actually use the whole property, or is there pieces of it off to the side that aren't really not part of the roadway? And if there are, what do you do with those?
It just depends on the configuration of what's left after we do the full take. We do purchase the whole property in the house, so it does become a full acquisition. We obviously need to, you know, demolish the homes along that stretch. So whatever the setback requirements and requirements of the township are, as far as size and frontage and depth and stuff like that, and the offset, you know, some areas we're able to resell properties after, you know, we demo those. So there is a resale value in value to that property afterwards. So we take that into account as far as resource that we have, as far as monies after the fact of our project being constructed. So
Thank you. Thank you, Chair.
thank you, Commissioner.
Commissioner Sabatini?
Thank you, Chair. Brian, so you need all the properties that are located on the northeast corner going north.
That's correct.
Okay.
I believe there's five homes.
5 homes plus the commercial piece on the corner.
Yes.
And on the northwest corner, the liquor store, what about the properties north of that?
I believe the 2 properties north of there were shifted enough to the east and aren't having a requirement of a full take.
Okay.
From what's my understanding.
And nothing on the south end?
No.
The homes that are being purchased, for this one example, can those homes be moved to another location?
I haven't been given information that they can be. They're older homes, and not that there'd be the worth to move it to a vacant property somewhere. That would be a huge undertaking with the, if you want to speak.
Yeah, I'm familiar with the area, and we are working with roads on this to help cut costs, and those are probably demos.
Okay.
And the problem is, in this area, the homes were built years ago, and they're right on the road, basically.
Yeah, there's
So if you
very
take,
small easement.
to expand legally, you have to take the whole parcel. So Brian is working with us to do it in the most cost-effective way.
Okay. In the roundabout, Brian, is that going to be a 2-lane? I mean, there's a lot of traffic there. So is this a 2-lane roundabout, or is it larger, or what's kind of the plan here?
Yes, that would be comparable to roundabouts we have Cass in Romeo Plank, or Cass in 19 Mile.
Okay.
You know, 2 lanes in, 2 lanes out, because you're going to have a 5-lane cross section. So you have 2 northbound, 2 southbound that transition north and south, and then obviously you have a single going in from east and west on 22 Mile Road.
Okay. And in comparison to just putting in a signal there relative to the roundabout, what was the path to get to the roundabout over going with the signal again?
Functionality and efficiency and safety. Obviously, with roundabouts, as I've talked before about this same subject, you know, roundabouts are more efficient as far as traffic flows, and they are safer in the fact that the incidents that you have and the crashes that you do have in a roundabout are less severe, more side swipes than T-bones that you get at a traditional intersection with a signal. So it was looked at both ways and felt this was the best fit for that location and intersection.
I mean, I'm glad we're going in the roundabout direction. I know years ago when we did our first roundabout in this county, we had so many people complaining, had no idea what a roundabout was. And now we do more roundabouts, I think, than probably our neighboring communities, seems like.
You know, our neighboring communities, Oakland, they've got their fair share. You know, the first one to start, you know, everybody thinks about 18.5 mile by M53 there, and that one's very complicated and on ramps and off ramps and all that other stuff. So ours are a simpler design, you know, north, south, east, west, traditionally. So that makes the configuration a lot easier and a lot better to travel for all ages, young and old. So.
Okay, thank you, Chair.
One other
Thank you,
question. With the expansion of 23 to 25 on Garfield, that should reduce a lot of traffic on Romeo Plain.
That's correct. That'll be another north-south avenue that traffic and motorists will be able to travel as a major arterial going north and south. So that should alleviate some of the traffic on neighboring north-south roads, yes.
Like Garfield actually is going to turn into Romeo Plank then.
That's correct.
Thank you.
Thank you.
No other speakers? Please vote.
Motion passes 12-0.
Thank you, Commissioners.
Thank you. Item number H, I'd like to combine H, I, J, K, L, M, N, O, and P. The motion, please.
So move on.
Support Nard.
Vicky?
Hey, good afternoon. All right, so in front of you, you have two budget amendments. One, item H, is for a grant that we received through EGLE. It's an urban forestry management for resilient coastal county project. That grant amount is $33,599.75, and then we've got a $15,000 county match coming to this grant. Really looking at the update to the roadmap of canopy, tree canopy throughout the county. I'll
Any
take any
questions?
questions.
If not, item I.
All right, so item I, also another budget amendment. This is coming from the Michigan Strategic Fund. This is some additional funding for our Industry 4.0 implementation grant. This particular grant helps offset the cost of equipment for our businesses that are looking to purchase high-tech equipment related to Industry 4.0.
Speakers. Item J.
All right, and if I can combine item J through items P, the annual action plan that we submitted back in May for the Community Development Block Grant Program, being a urban county, you know, we do oversee the CDBG funding for 20 different communities in our county. So what you have in front of you are subrecipient agreements for Care, Centerline, East Point, Macomb Township, Mount Clemens, New Baltimore, and Shelby Township. These particular subrecipient agreements exceed the 35,000 threshold, so we're just bringing those forth so you have them on record.
Mr. Chair,
Commissioner Center.
exactly what is this? Is this for a building?
So each of these projects are different. We've got relationships with the communities to help offset their community development block grant program. So they submit projects through a proposal process, and then they are vetted, and then we award it through our CDBG and administer those grant funds.
Mr. Chair, Don, is this question coming up between which building for either of these that we had a
I'm sorry,
question?
could you speak up a little bit?
Is a question coming up which we had before about which building we're talking about on any of these?
No, this is
a different scenario.
No.
All right, thank you very much. Thank you, Chair.
No other speakers? Thank you, Vicki.
Thank you. You guys have a great day.
Item number 7, correspondence to receive and file 7A and through 7C.
Would you like to vote?
Yes. No.
Trying to be efficient.
Motion passes 12-0.
Thank you, Mr. Commissioner Romano. Correspondence, receive and file 7A through C.
I'll make the motion, Chair.
Any discussion? Please vote.
Motion passes 13-0.
Item number 8, public participation. Is there anyone here from the public that wishes to speak on anything that they wish to speak on? Anyone from the public? Anyone from the public? We'll close public participation. Commissioners' comments. Commissioner Hall.
Your bike thing. Talk about your bike thing.
Thank you, Chair. I just want everybody to note that Commissioner Kraft asked last week to receive the budget, and here we have sitting on our desk.
You're strong, man. You're
Good
strong.
luck reading this thing.
Yes.
Thank you, Chair.
No other speakers? Commissioner Van Sickle.
Thank you. Just a little update. Saturday, we had a drop-in bike ride at Clinton River Park North in Sterling Heights off of Riverland. We had a couple dozen, 2 to 3 dozen people show up. We had people from Fraser, Shelby Township, other places in Sterling Heights, of course. Sterling Heights Park and Rec did a great job of cleaning the park up a little bit. That particular park has a dirt road through it, and they had that nice and level and smooth. The trails were all cleaned up, the signage was great, and the weather cooperated, so we had a great time, and looking forward to doing it next year. Thank you.
Thank you, Commissioner. Commissioners?
Commissioner Perna?
Commissioner Brown?
I attended the bike event that Commissioner Van Sickle held in his district, and I must say I was jealous of the dirt road he had in his park, being nice and level and not full of potholes. Where I come from, we're not so lucky. And actually, it was really a good trip, though. I was driving my bike down the trail, and I came across 3 bucks. Not dollars on the road, but bucks in the creek. Three bucks, big racks, all playing in the water, enjoying the Clinton River. So it's not only a fun place for humans, animals love it too. So anyway, very good job. It was very entertaining and very fun. Thank you.
Did you take a photo op?
I have a photo of it. Actually, I do, but I didn't get with them though. They would maybe between the bucks and the horns. That'd be kind of fun, but they didn't have it.
It's probably a wise choice.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman.
Other speakers? Closed session, item number 10. Closed session to discuss confidential memo from Corporation Counsel dated September 7.
Motion to go into closed session.
Support.
Do we need a motion at all?
We need an open, come out of close.
We need-
Forward, yeah.
We're out of closed session now. We need a motion to adjourn.
Support.
Please vote.